Hey guys, it's Dean. Welcome back to the Better Man podcast. Today's episode is a member interview focused on reclaiming your fitness. I have Steve S. here from Vermont, and we are going to be talking about how he got started with Manful Yoga and his story there. So, Steve, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So I like to start these off just talking about kind of what was your oh shit moment? What was it when you realized that you weren't where you wanted to be with your fitness and it was time for a change?
So when I was 27, my dad was diagnosed with diabetes. He had been at work and he had been having leg issues with pain off and on, but hadn't really gone to a doctor. So he wound up falling down at work and being brought to the hospital. And he had his right leg amputated from the knee down after that. And we didn't know he had diabetes. So that was the point for me where I decided I needed to just check on my health. I hadn't been going to the doctor regularly. And I decided I wanted to just take better care of myself.
How old were you at that point?
I was 27 at that point.
Okay.
And my dad wound up passing away a few years later when he was 63. He had a heart attack. And again, he didn't go to the doctor regularly. Um, and so I just decided for my own benefit, my own health, I wanted to start going to the doctor and just checking my blood work once a year and making sure they don't have diabetes or anything else going on. I wound up having high cholesterol and high blood pressure in my 30s. And that was the point where I really made the commitment to start working out. And when I first started going, I went to the gym maybe 2 or 3 times a week, but I didn't do a lot. I did a lot of stuff on the elliptical machine,
Hmm.
did a little bit with the exercise machines, but not a whole lot of free weights. And it wasn't until I started gaining weight and my cholesterol kept getting higher that I decided it was time to actually join an exercise class.
Yeah.
So I started doing that. It'll be 10 years, I think, this month. I know it was in 2014 that I went to my first class. I do that at 6 a.m. twice a week. And I also have been doing a
What kind
spin
of
class for a
what
while.
kind of class is it?
It's a group conditioning class. So
Okay.
it's a bunch of whole different exercises. Some days we lift weights, we push a prowler, we do the rowing machine sometimes. It's
Yeah.
a whole bunch of different things. And it changes every 3 weeks. So you never know what you're doing next.
That's great. How often do you do that?
Twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
And then
Cool.
I had been going to a spin class that had ended when COVID hit. And I go and I ride a stationary bike at the gym twice a week, usually Monday and Friday. And I use either a treadmill or I take a walk on Wednesdays.
Okay. Cool. So were you when you started going to the gym and you were kind of not super serious, but doing the elliptical, doing some machines, were you also paying attention to your diet or other factors at the time, or was it mostly focused on the exercise?
It was mostly on exercise at that point. It
Okay.
wasn't really until my cholesterol and blood pressure kept rising that I started changing my diet too.
Yeah. What did you do? Have you had success with that, or what were some things that you did to change your diet?
The most important thing was to eat a larger meal in the middle of the day instead of eating a big meal at supper time. I usually have
Okay.
a salad for supper, and I usually have like meat, not always not potatoes anymore, but meat, vegetables, and some sort of like rice or something for lunch.
Okay.
And I cut out bread quite a bit. I used to eat bread with almost every meal, and I do still have dessert sometimes, but I have it at lunchtime instead of later in the day.
Okay. So it doesn't sound like you made drastic changes to your diet. You just made a few tweaks.
Yeah,
Yeah. Did that feel manageable?
yeah, that was very manageable.
Okay. Cool. When did you
The
make those?
hardest part was eating a salad for supper.
Okay. Mm. How do you keep that interesting, or
Sorry, what'd you say?
how do you keep that palatable or enjoyable?
Um, I'm not a big cook anyway,
Hmm.
but for me, just making a basic chicken or pork or something with a few seasonings, it works for me.
Okay.
Um, and I also work in a hospital, and I frequently will have lunch at the hospital, whatever they're having. Depending, I'll try to plan it, looking at what the menu is for the week. And if I see something that I know I'm going to like, I'll make sure I eat that day.
Got it. Okay. What do you do at the hospital?
Right now, I'm a medical secretary. I just got my certified medical assistance certification this summer,
Okay.
and I'm trying to find a job doing that.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember having this conversation with you at some point, or seeing you talk about this at some point. That's cool.
Yeah, I've gone through the classes last year. It was 2 semesters of classes last year.
Okay. Cool. Great. So, when you were at your, how has your weight journey been? Was weight an issue, or was it just the high blood pressure that was the issue?
Weight has been a bit of an issue too.
Mhm.
My weight actually started going up more. I had both my hips replaced 3 years ago,
Mm.
and that's the point where my weight started to go up because I wasn't during the recovery. I wasn't cooking for myself as much, and I was home alone
Mm.
most of the time. So it was easier just to buy like a healthy choice meal instead of actually
Yeah.
make something. So with the sodium and the extra things there, my weight and my blood work went way off the charts.
Yeah.
And I wound up gaining 30 pounds. I've dropped most of that. I've dropped about 23 or 24 pounds now from then.
Okay.
And I don't know if I can get the extra weight off. I'm over 50 now. So I'm trying to get back to where I was pre surgery, but I haven't made it quite there yet.
You definitely can. I believe in you, and I know that it's possible with the right things. What has helped you? What have you noticed when you've been most successful with weight loss? What specific habits or nutrition adjustments have been most helpful?
I think eating oats in the morning instead of eating like ham and eggs and a bigger breakfast.
Okay.
um, I was eating like Cheerios or oatmeal in the morning, and I haven't gotten back to that yet. But that's something I've been thinking about getting back to just to see if it makes a difference.
Got it.
Um,
Can I ask how tall you are and what your weight is? I just want people to get a general
I'm
understanding of.
5'10", and right now I'm about 205.
Okay. Got it. So your ideal weight would be like one. What would your ideal weight be?
I'd like to get down to 195.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think that sounds doable to me. Do you have what's your plan, or have you thought about what you want to do to get there?
I don't know what to do next to get there.
Okay. So what are you doing now? What are the things that you're doing right now?
It's mainly been the exercise classes in the morning and riding the stationary bike and then walking.
Got it.
I'm trying to hit at least 8,000 calories. It's 8,000 steps a day, but I'm not always getting there.
Yeah. How do you get the walks in? What's your what do you how do you make sure you get more steps in?
I should walk more in the evenings, I think. I
Okay.
try to walk at work, and I don't park next to the building. I park as far away as I can.
Okay.
I walk in the morning at least once a week, and then walking at night I think is what would make the bigger difference. And I come home to my elderly cat, and I don't go out usually most nights, but I know I can go out after supper and take a short walk, and that would make more of a difference.
What, your cat doesn't like going on walks?
No, she doesn't like me to leave the house.
That's funny. I've seen people walk cats. It's always interesting to me. Uh, anyways, okay, so let's talk
Yeah,
about
he's
how
like
does.
18 years old now, so she wouldn't be up
Oh
for it.
wow, wow, that's one thing that cats have that dogs don't. Longer lifespans. So how does manful yoga fit into? How did manful yoga start fitting into your workouts, and why'd you go looking for something like manful yoga?
I'm trying to remember when I first joined because I know it's been a few years. Um, I used to go to a yoga class at the gym, and I
Mm,
know I stopped doing that. Um, it was a female instructor, and I was having knee pain and hip pain. I didn't realize that my hips were as bad as they were, but a lot of the poses were aggravating my joints.
mm,
So I decided to look for something more geared towards men, and that was how I found manful yoga online through YouTube originally. Um, and I started doing it, and I bought a couple of your books. And I know I joined. I know it's pre-pandemic because I remember I put everything on hold for a while when I went through my hip surgeries in 2021,
hmm
and I contacted Manful Yoga and spoke to I think it was Jesse, to put
Probably
everything on
Jesse.
hold for
Yeah.
a year. Yeah. Um, so I'm not even sure when I began, but it was basically because of the joint pain. And I thought doing more yoga, I didn't really know what I was having for issues. I hadn't had an x ray yet. And I just thought it was muscle pain. And I thought doing yoga would improve it. So that was my main motivation for beginning.
Got it. Did you find that it helped?
It did a little bit at first, but obviously I had osteoarthritis, so it wasn't really helping.
Yeah.
But after the hip replacements, it helped a lot. I
Okay.
got back into yoga. I'm trying to remember when I stopped PT. I stopped PT, I think it was in December after the second hip replacement. And then I went back to the gym in January. And when I went back to the gym, I talked to the instructor about maybe adding yoga back in. And he thought that might be a good idea. So that's when I started going back to yoga again, January 2022.
Hmm. Cool. All right. So, all right. So you're doing yoga again. You're still doing your group conditioning classes. Um, what happened over the next few months with the hip replacement recovery?
It was mostly PT.
Mostly PT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And walking up and down the stairs twice a day and PT.
Yeah. Got it. So what helped you when you first started those? So what helped you be consistent with the PT? Were you a compliant patient or were you a non-compliant
I
patient?
I was very compliant. I wanted to get back to being able to walk normally, and I've never actually run a marathon, but I did a couple of 3Ks a few years ago and a
Okay.
5K, and that caused a lot of pain after doing both of those. So
Mm.
in the back of my mind, I want to eventually get to the point where I can run at least a 5K, maybe a 10K.
Okay. Got it. Is that like the next big goal for you or
It is, yeah, that's my next
what's the
goal.
next big goal? Cool. All right. So walk me through your weekly workout routine right now.
Okay. So Mondays, I usually do the yoga first thing in the morning before I go to the gym,
Okay.
and I try to alternate between the different routines. I had been doing Sort of Strong for a while, and right now I'm doing the Better Day series.
Okay.
Um, so I do like a half hour of yoga, and then I head to the gym around 5:30 in the morning. And Monday mornings I ride the exercise bike for about a half hour. Tuesday morning I go to my group conditioning class for an hour. Wednesday morning I either take a walk or go on a treadmill for an hour. Thursday is a group conditioning class, and Friday I ride the stationary bike again.
Got it. So yoga is that's your Monday morning workout?
It's 5 days a week now.
Oh, you do? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. How did you how did you get into the habit of making yoga every or 5 days a week?
I feel better after doing it. And I think it helps when you do other exercises afterwards to have the yoga first.
Yeah.
Um, and I had done, you have a routine to do before weightlifting. And I had been
Mhm.
doing that off and on the Tuesday and Thursday mornings, depending on how I felt when I got up.
Yeah.
Um, so then we just did this last challenge, and ending the challenge, I realized that I felt a lot better just doing the whole longer holes. So I thought I'll start the Better
Mm,
Day series next, and then I might actually go back to this challenge again and do that when the Better Day series
cool.
is over with.
Yeah, I really like this new one we did, this Beyond Flexibility, just because, we hold poses relatively long in the other workouts. They're usually 1, 2 minutes, but deliberately holding them for like 3, 4, or 5 minutes. That's when it's like, oh wow, you can really
Yeah,
work a lot deeper into it. What was your experience with the flexibility Beyond challenge? I'm just curious.
it really took care of a lot of the pain I'd been having after the workouts. Um, I think it's great. I think it helped a lot.
Cool, awesome, good to know. All right, well, I'll have to take that into account. So, okay, so you're pretty much working out for an hour to like an hour 15 or like an hour and a half every morning, it sounds like.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, cool. And okay, so we've got and your nutrition's pretty dialed in. You've figured out what works for you there.
Yep.
Got it. So are you planning on sticking with this plan that you have now? or are there things that you want to add in or change up in order to build to a 5K or a 10K, or what's the next 6 month plan look like?
I'm going to go through the workouts on Manflow Yoga and look for some different ones because I feel like I'm doing the same ones over and over. I
Yeah,
prefer something short so that I can go to the gym afterwards in the morning. So something like between 20 minutes and a half hour usually is better for me.
yeah. That's a good time range. Most of our workouts are going to be, in the 30-minute range, and we do have a few programs in the 15 and 20-minute range as well. And like you mentioned, that warm up workout, we do have a whole playlist of warm up workouts for weightlifting that would probably probably fit that bill pretty nicely.
Yep.
So, anyways, cool. Um, all right. So how have so you already have your group class that you've been doing 10 years now, twice a week. How has that community been helpful for you?
Oh, it's been really helpful. When I went to the gym before, it was more like a solitary thing where you're just
Mhm.
doing your thing on your machine and nobody's really talking to you.
Yeah.
But I found when you go to a class, you actually make friends with people. I've actually gone out and done like paint and sips and karaoke and other things with some of the people that I've met from the morning classes.
Nice.
So it's been another, for me, it's added friendships to my life. It's been a really good thing for me.
Yeah. Did you so when you started doing that group workout class, was that the first time that you had been exercising consistently?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. What do you think helped you be consistent and show up even when you didn't want to as you were first getting started?
Part of it seeing the same people every morning and knowing that if you don't show up, they're going to ask you where you were. um, but the
Yes.
other part of it is just I really, at that point, I had become really committed to getting my cholesterol back down and not being put on medications for my cholesterol or my blood pressure.
Hmm.
Because I didn't want to be one of those people that's on like 20 medications when they're in their 60s or 70s.
Yeah. So that's the big motivation then, is keeping yourself healthy for as you get older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just turned 57 a few weeks ago.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it must be an interesting feeling, or I guess a scary feeling when you're, knowing that your dad passed away only a few years than your age now. But you're on such a different I don't know, how does that make you feel? If you don't mind me asking.
I feel better about myself. I don't feel like I'm going to die in the next couple of years. But it definitely made me motivated to take care of myself and to not, I don't want to die young. And I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm taking good enough care of myself now that I'm preventing that.
Yeah, for sure. Something that I've talked about a lot with people who work in hospitals is they see other people, right? And they see all different kinds of health, different ranges of health. How has that impacted you?
It's definitely made a big impact. When you see somebody that's your age that you went to school with and they look a lot older and they're not doing well, it's hard. There are days when it's sad to see somebody, and there have been times when I've left work feeling really bad just because somebody that I knew like 30 years ago is now pretty much close to dying. But,
Mm,
you know, it's something you have no control over. You just have to deal with it every day.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and it is sad to see younger people. I know it sounds kind of judgmental to people that smoke, people that drink a lot. Um, it's hard to see them come in and there's nothing you can really do for them.
yeah. That's an interesting topic. I think there's a lot of people who, I think, especially in in this current age, and also especially in the health and wellness front lines. So when I say health and wellness front lines, I mean like the people who are working on putting out information about how to live a healthy lifestyle
Hmm.
versus the medical establishment, which is focused on, okay, you haven't been living a healthy lifestyle, or you've got some, predisposition to this disease, or, I mean, things happen. You can't prevent disease with just exercise and diet alone. things are going to come up no matter what. But I think there is this perception that, people who work in the medical field and doctors especially are really only focused on giving you the medication that you need. And, my perception has always been my dad was an oncologist. He just retired, like within the last couple of months. Um, but, so I've always had a bias toward um, believing in doctors. And I think there is this perception that, doctors are just trying to give you the medication that you need. They don't really care about, um, they don't really care about you. But um, my counter thought to that has been, well, they can only do so much, and short of
Right.
teaching you all these different things, and they give advice all the time, but how often do people actually take that advice? So I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people expect the doctor to be like a miracle worker, and they don't really understand going in that when you have, like you said, these preconditions, sometimes there's nothing they can do but to give you the medication. But they usually do try to recommend diet and exercise and other things to try to improve your health. Um, and I don't think people listen enough to what the doctor is telling them.
Hmm.
And,
Yeah.
and I know, you try to help people. You try to tell people a better way to live, get off the junk food and things like that. And I don't think that really resonates with most people.
Yeah. One thing that I heard on, I think it was on this podcast when we were talking to people, is that, it's difficult to take, it's difficult to be given advice in that manner because it isn't taught, or it isn't presented in a way that's going to help people with implementing it practically.
Right.
So, you can say, hey, stop eating junk food. You can say, hey, you need to eat better. And then people are like, well, what do I do? Okay, I stop eating junk food. How do I do that? How do I go about doing that? Or eating healthy? What do you mean? Where do I start? Right. So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, yeah, there's only so much time and energy for somebody to explain these things in a
Yeah, I know
certain
our
way.
hospital, we have a newsletter that goes out every 3 months, I think it is. And it has
Mhm.
like diet tips and exercise tips. But I don't know how many people in the community actually follow it.
Right. Well, anyways, so other external support systems, how has the mindful yoga community specifically been helpful?
I think it's been really helpful in making me feel like I have to do. If there's a challenge, I like to do it. I like to post first thing in the morning that I've done it,
Okay.
and I kind of feel like if I don't post it on there, then people that I know through Manful Yoga are going to notice I didn't post that morning.
Do people reach
So it
out to
keeps
you
me
if you haven't been
doing it.
posting in a while, or it's just a perception that?
No, it's just my perception.
Okay.
I just lost an earbud. Um, yeah, it's just my perception. There are a couple of people I've added as I've made friends with through Facebook that I've met through Manful Yoga on there.
Hmm.
So I know that they in particular would say something if I weren't posting.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So it's helpful for, yeah, we do challenges every 3 months in the community. So we do a month-long challenge, and those are really fun. I think it really does. I think I think a lot of people are like you, um, and even to like a greater extent, where they only do workouts when challenges are going on sometimes. So, yeah. Okay. All right. So we talked about what's the next thing you want to work on in your fitness, building up to that 5K, continuing with the plan that you're doing now, getting into some of the other workouts, other programs in Manflow Yoga. Um, what I think a good question to ask, I didn't ask this yet. So what improvements have you noticed in your life as a result of being just more aware of and more conscious of living a healthy lifestyle?
It's definitely easier for me to get around without pain as much.
Mm,
Um, so basically, just like walking, even. Yeah, I've had knee pain off and on for years. I've been to PT for that several times over the years. And I actually had bursitis in my left hip back in 2009, I think it was. Um, and at the time, they didn't do an x ray. That's my other thing. I would tell people get an x ray if you're having continued pain, because as soon as I had the hip X-ray in 2020, they showed that I had end-stage osteoarthritis in my left hip.
Mm,
Um, and if I had had that X-rayed, 11 years earlier, it might have shown something happening there. It might have not had to go so far before I had to have surgery.
mhm.
Um, yeah, so for me, it's been a huge improvement. At the last few years have been a huge improvement. I'm much more mobile. It's just easier to do everything.
Yeah. So when you got the hip surgery, was your initial thought, can I fix this with natural causes or, natural whatever first? Can I fix this with exercise? Can I
No.
fix other things first?
Um, the orthopedic surgeon told me that my left hip was end stage and that if I didn't have it operated on within the next few months, it was going to be inoperable and there was nothing
Oh,
he was
wow.
going to be able
Okay.
to do with it.
Okay.
So I tried to put off having the right one done for a while, but then I
Mhm.
was going through PT for the left one, the right one started hurting more. So I actually had the
Mhm.
left one done in January 2021 and the right one in October of 2021.
Mhm. Got it. But then it sounds like that was the right choice for you, and you within a few months you were exercising without pain, or how was that recovery process?
It was long. It was a long process. I was still having a little bit of pain, I would say, for at least 6 to 9 months after.
Mhm. And
When
how
I
old
first
were you
started
when
doing
you did
conventional
the surgery?
exercise. Uh, let's see, that was 3 years ago, 54.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Cool, and I bring that up
I
because
did
I
feel
think a
like
lot. Go ahead.
I felt like I was too young to be having both my hips replaced.
Mm,
There was a little bit of, oh my God, really? So I
yeah.
did feel like this is something you hear about people that are elderly, and I'm not old enough to have this. But it happens to everybody, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and I bring that up. I think there's a I don't know. Within the community, within the manfly yoga community, I think there's people have ideas about surgery and whether or not they should do it or trying to avoid it at all costs and fix it with exercise first. And but yeah, sometimes you need it. So
Yeah, and I've also broken both my wrists in separate accidents. So I have plates and screws in both my wrists now too.
okay,
So my view of surgery is probably different than other people's, just because I've worked in a hospital for a long time and I've had
yeah,
other surgeries and they've gone well. And I just always feel like if that's what the surgeons tell me I need, I'm just going to go ahead and have it.
yeah, cool. Um, all right. So I like to ask my rapid fire questions. So I didn't tell you about this, but these are just off the hip questions. Just answer however you're feeling in the moment.
Okay.
All right. What is the one habit, belief, or mindset that has helped you the most with your overall health and wellness?
I think the best habit is to get enough sleep. I'm on a sleep cycle now where I go to bed usually between 7:30 and 8 and get up around 4 in the morning, 4 or 4:30.
Mhm,
Um, and that really started being that early after the surgeries. Before that, I would stay up to like 9 o'clock at night and get up at like 5 in the morning. But I
mhm,
found that going to bed earlier and getting up earlier gives me more time to do things in the morning, get the exercise in, get the yoga in, and I feel better throughout the day. It was a little bit of a shift to go to bed so early, but I think it helps. I think
mhm.
you need to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And for me, if I go to bed earlier, I'm getting the sleep earlier and waking up feeling more refreshed.
Yeah. What is one thing that you do for your health that is often overlooked or undervalued by others?
Hmm. I think I exercise more than most people. I'd say that would be my number one. We get enough exercise every week.
Yeah. All right. What's the most stressful part of your day to day life?
Ooh, um, I would say work. Definitely work. It's been a busy time at the hospital, and right now is the season where we're getting COVID, the flu, and just the regular cold, and it's been very busy the last few weeks. Um, so then I come home from work and I'm tired and I don't go out for a walk, and I know I should come home from work, eat something, and then take a walk and get my evening exercise. I'm not doing that. So that's probably the biggest thing right now.
Got it. So is it the just the different duties that is the stressful part, or is it the the people involvement, the patients, or like what is it?
I think for me, I've spent a lot of time living alone, so being around people all day tires me out anyway. Um, Maybe it's a personality thing. I'm not sure, but I if I'm around people all day and they all have they're coming in feeling stressed, so I'm trying to calm people down all day and trying to be friendly as much as I can, and then I go home at night and I just feel like all my energy is depleted. So that's part of it for me.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, my last question is, what is your best piece of advice for men who want to be healthier?
Oh, um, eat well, get enough sleep. I think those are the two big things.
Yeah. So I'm gonna dive into the sleep eat the sleeping better portion. What do you do before you go to bed that helps you sleep well?
I don't play on the phone for about an hour before I go to bed.
Okay.
Um, I don't always do yoga, but sometimes I'll put on music or I'll do some meditation or I'll journal.
Yeah.
So I try to do something to free my mind, so I'm not thinking any intrusive thoughts. And I usually fall asleep within 5 or 10 minutes.
All right. Cool. Well, Steve, thank you for doing this. I appreciate you going against your social tendencies and getting on a conversation with me for all of the world to hear.
Well, thank you. This is really an honor to do, and I'll probably never do anything like this again.
I'm glad I got you out of your comfort zone. Yeah. Well, thank you for being part of the community. And yeah, like whether you realize it or not, I think just making those consistent posts and showing like, hey, I'm doing the workouts is really helping other people also do the workouts and probably doing workouts that they might not have otherwise have done. And that's great. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for this one. Guys listening in, I hope you enjoyed this interview. I hope it inspires you to be a better man. I'll see you on the next episode.